Dolphin Living is a charity in Westminster providing intermediate rental homes in and around Westminster. 75% of our portfolio is homes for intermediate rent. And we welcome Westminster City Council's increased emphasis on intermediate housing. It's great to know that our interests are aligned with one of our key stakeholders. Alongside this, we're receiving more and more inquiries from others in the real estate and housing sectors about our intermediate product. I think in this context it's important to take a step back and focus on the reality of the housing crisis for London's workers to understand why intermediate housing is so necessary. As London house prices have doubled since 2005 and market rents have increased by 40%, the earnings of the median earner have increased by only 20%. In Westminster, the London living rent, which is a measure of people's salary, is from £1,000 to £1,600 a month, meaning the median earner in different wards earns between £30,000 and £58,000. The average rent for a two-bedroom flat at market rents in Westminster is £2,600 a month. And so we can see that Westminster is struggling to accommodate London's median earners. Nickie's outlined a number of requests from central government. In particular, we support the ability for local authorities to increase their housing offer. It's only right that local authorities should be empowered to support a broad range of those that live in their borough. And we hope that by increasing their remit, that the overall amount of affordable housing can be increased. I'm interested in your proposal for a housing tariff and would like to see how that might work. However, I hope the design and implementation would take lessons learned from Cllr, which took a significant amount of time to introduce, refine, and refine again. It's essential that any such levy should not hamper or disincentivise development, and it needs to be flexible to prevailing market conditions. This levy and some of the other asks that Nickie's outlined will take time to introduce, and whilst they may work in the longer term, we need to work together to deliver housing now. So, what can Dolphin Living, an affordable housing charity, offer to Westminster, and what do we ask of you? So we offer partnership. We've already undertaken several partnerships with Westminster through an alignment of interest, use of our resource, in the knowledge that our surpluses get reinvested in the provision of housing, our expertise in intermediate housing, and also the flexibility and innovation that we have and that we demonstrate, and that we're well known for, that Westminster embraces, but in certain circumstances cannot deliver alone. And we ask for support to facilitate this housing development, both through a planning regime and process that facilitates delivery, and through an understanding of our business model and our need to, the acceptance that Nickie's mentioned of our need for profit, so that we can ensure that new policy and tariffs don't halter or hamper our development aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Natalie, Elphicke, please.
Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be here, and Westminster City Council has a very, very special place in my heart. Because back in 2005, the legendary leader of Westminster, Simon Milton, he plucked a brash young housing finance partner out of a comfy city law firm office, don't know who that could have been, and he put me to work on his housing commission under Lord Best, looking at what could happen, what changes could be made to help bring forward housing across all tenures for the people of Westminster. Well, it's said of public service that when we give, we also grow. Well, the Westminster Housing Commission was such an experience for me. It was somewhere where I could give my intellect, my experience, my passion for housing, and my compassion for those in housing need. I learnt so much during my time at Westminster. It was knowledge and experience that I've carried through. I've carried through to my own national government housing report with Keith House a decade later. And those lessons, well, we reversed decades of housing policy. We put the role of the council firmly back in the driving seat. And I'm delighted to see that so well articulated today. This London Borough of Westminster has such extraordinary housing diversity, such poverty alongside such grandeur, such wealth in its land, alongside such a waste when that land sits idle. And yes, even here in Westminster, there is land that sits idle, not just for years, but sometimes for decades. So I'm proud to stand next to Nickie Aiken as a council leader who I know is in the very best tradition of this council. Nickie, you've shown that you care for all of Westminster's diverse and wonderful people. You want to drive change in this council. Because more than ever, we need leaders of courage and imagination. Leaders who are not afraid to ask their council to apply all of their considerable resources, high quality officers, well-connected councillors, to put their shoulders to the wheel and deliver the homes which are needed for the current and future generations of residents here in Westminster. Housing is so very, very important. All of us in this room know how important it is. And where it goes well, housing really does change lives for the better. It is, of course, with great sadness that we've seen recently what happens when it goes wrong. Well, in her comments today, Nickie is asking for some new powers and flexibility from government. And this very much resonates with the work we've been undertaking at the Housing and Finance Institute. Our early work at the Institute, a paper called Boosting the Boroughs, we recommend that councils show individual borough leadership of the type that is being shown in Westminster. That they don't just leave it to others, they don't leave it to the GLA or the London Mayor. That they take responsibility first and foremost for delivering the homes that are needed. We propose that boroughs should be able to work with and alongside other local authorities, inside and outside London. And in our seminal paper, How to Build More Homes Faster, you can tell that we like titles that tell you what you're going to read. We recommend greater borrowing flexibility, including making sure that money generated from housing is used for housing. Whether it's from sales receipts, from Section 106, from Cllr or other levies, housing money should be supporting the delivery of housing, particularly affordable and intermediate housing. We've recommended individual housing growth deals. We call them, yeah, I'm afraid it's another piece of alliteration, Devo for districts. It does extend to unitaries and boroughs, so if anyone could come up with a U and a B that works, I'd be very grateful. Now, in Devo for districts, we're proposing that established councils, so councils that are comfortable in their skin, that are doing a good job, who have ambition and ability to accelerate housing delivery, are given similar settlements to the new combined authorities and city growth deals. Now, the first of these deals are being negotiated at the moment with DCLG. Discussions restarted last Friday. And one of our flagship councils, Stoke-on-Trent, they were the first council in the country to be awarded our National Housing Business Ready accreditation. And we're delighted that they're in discussions with DCLG at the moment to see whether such a local housing settlement is possible. So, greater borrowing flexibility, local house growth settlements, better use of housing money and housing receipts to support housing delivery. There is much to like in Nickie's comments today. But with these settlements and powers comes a responsibility to deliver. To build more homes and faster, to flex those municipal muscles. Nickie, I look forward to the next steps in Westminster and to you and your council working to deliver those homes that you've outlined and your borough so urgently needs. Thank you.
Fantastic. And finally, James Cooksey, please.
Morning, everybody. Good effort for turning up this early on Monday morning. So I just wanted to, I suppose, outline the thoughts of the property industry principally, and those of the Westminster Property Association. So I think firstly, if you think about the debate that we're having this morning, I'm not sure that we would have been having it in the same way 2 or 3 years ago. So it really does feel as though housing and the need for affordable homes particularly is very much at the top of the agenda for the industry itself. And I like to think that whilst developers really care about the profit, if anyone is to consider that on a sustainable long-term basis, then we have to address this dire need of homes that are genuinely affordable. But in doing that, we as an industry need to think about circumstances that perhaps we wouldn't have done a few years ago. We need to take a much broader and long-term approach to the nature of the schemes and the developments that we're producing within this borough particularly. I think Nickie's highlighted, certainly from my perspective, very thankfully, that the industry, of course, needs to generate a profit as it goes about delivering development. It needs to deliver the right form of development and the right quality and something that contributes positively to the area that it's developing within. But in order to do that, the industry, I think, needs the ability to make the most of the sites that it has. So Nickie's reference to another floor or two, clearly what we're not talking about are towers. What we're talking about is making the most of the land that exists within a very constrained area. And if we can deliver that, then of course scale and growth equates to profits that can then contribute towards the type of homes that have been outlined by the panel. We're very supportive of Westminster's initiative, particularly in respect of intermediate homes. I think the opportunity that creates is to create a long-term income stream from homes to rent. And the advantage being, of course, that has a value. And if it's delivered in the right way, both generates value for the owners of the property, but also generates a degree of security on the basis of a longer-term home for somebody to occupy. And Dolphin, for example, would seek to lease intermediate properties for 3 years with all things being equal, a right to renewal. And you can see that that introduces a degree of stability in an otherwise changing environment. So from the industry's perspective, volume is obviously a good thing. I fully support and welcome the debate or some of the points that have been made in respect of taking a pan-London view. I think it's absolutely essential that when you are looking at delivering homes within a given borough, you also look above at the boundaries of that location and try and take more of a pan-London approach to the housing solutions. There's been quite a lot of debate about on-site and off-site. Just sort of picking up on that point, Nickie, specifically. I think the key word for me is about delivery. So whether that's on-site or off-site within a given location, I think what we're all hopefully as one with is the need to deliver homes. Payment in lieu is something that has existed and been used quite extensively, but if we can move away from that as an industry, and developers are consequently required to deliver the right type of homes, I think that in itself would be a significant step forward. We as an industry and with Westminster have had some very active debates with the leader and the planning department over the last few weeks and months, I think in a way that we wouldn't have done in years that have gone by, and we certainly welcome that opportunity to work together with Westminster and the GLA in order that we can deliver homes and really make a contribution that will deliver for London. Without that, we are going to continue delivering offices, retail, etc., without the people being able to be accommodated that are going to work in that space. So there's little point in trying to create economic activity if we can't accommodate those that are going to work within the accommodation. So I think those are my initial comments. Thanks very much.